Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host, speaking at you from July 6th, Sunday, July 6th, 2025, in the space and time continuum. Hope you had a good 4th of July. I know people felt torn. It's hard to celebrate America at this point in time. But from what I saw, most people were ready to just have it be a holiday, enjoy family and good food and things like that. I hope you had a decent weekend. We all have to be able to handle what we're going through right now, these things we're going through in our own way. So sometimes it's hard to get together with other people during these times. I was kind of dreading politics coming up, We got together with a lot of family members. I want to talk about that in a little bit, but I do want to say that, again, I was in this morning kind of like, I don't know if I can do this show, man. I just don't know if I can do it this week. This excruciatingly sad news out of Texas. And as you know, was it only 2 weeks ago now? Maybe it was 3 weeks ago. Time is insane. It's hard to, time just feels, I can't tell if it's moving faster or slower. But the tragedy here in Minnesota, where hate ended up murdering, it was a person, and I hold him completely responsible, but I guess not completely responsible. I hold Donald Trump responsible for both what happened to my friend Melissa Hortman and her husband, and John Hoffman and his wife. I hold Trump responsible because he is the one who has been working on drumming up this kind of hate for years. He has been drumming it up. Doom, doom. And he is also, I think, very much to blame, along with other people. His Project 2025 people, Elon Musk. There was the warning coordination director in Texas of part of the national weather. He was let go by the Trump administration. Does that sound like an important title? The Warning Coordination Director. These people were not told that this storm was going to be this bad, and these people were not told to evacuate. It seems like the Warning Coordination Director would have a pretty big part in making sure that happened. I want to tell you now a tale of two responses. In 2024, the Beryl floods. Okay, of course, President Joe Biden was in office at the time. NOAA, the National Weather Service, was fully staffed. And what was it, Friday night, about 3 a.m. is when the river really burst. Apparently rose something like 20 feet, which is just insane, very quickly. And it washed a lot of people away. Now, you've probably heard that news. Still 27 young girls were at summer camp. And, they're still unaccounted for. And, of course, we know what that probably means. On Friday night, NOAA and the National Weather Service was gutted by mass firings. More than 600 staff members between NOAA and the National Weather Service have been fired by Trump. including the Warning Coordination Director in Texas. Now let's go back again to the 2024 Burrell floods. Accurate rainfall predictions saved lives. Now let's go back to Friday night. Forecasts severely underestimated storm. It called for 3 to 8 inches, but instead it was 10 plus inches in a couple hours, which is kind of unprecedented. And I am hearing Republicans going on saying, well, you know, we could have never seen this coming. Well, no, not without the Warning Coordination Director. Biden saw what was coming because he didn't fire everybody in the National Weather Service. Let's go back to 2024 Burrell floods. Timely emergency alerts and evacuation orders occurred. Whereas on Friday night, no clear evacuation protocols were activated early. And now in the aftermath, going back to 2024, FEMA moved in within 24 to 48 hours. Donald Trump still hasn't sent FEMA into North Carolina from, when was it that happened? Was it slightly before I think it was January or February? Is FEMA ever going to make it down to Texas? Does FEMA exist? Let's go to the news. Wait, there is no news. We don't know. This is, I got to say, I think we all need to be careful in the mornings when we wake up. Now, I don't know about you. I'm not a morning person. I know a lot of morning people who are just, that's like the happiest time. They wake up all cheery and they want to sit in the sun or go for a walk. I wish I could be that person, but really, I kind of want to punch that person because when I wake up in the morning, it's the worst time of the day for me. I know other people who have similar, they feel similar to me. And by the way, if you are one of those morning people, I'm not going to punch you, but I'm extremely envious of you to the degree that it gets frustrating to me. Okay, is that a better way to put it? Right. With all of the things that are going on right now, you know, I'm the optimist, if you've been listening to this show. And that's a lot of the reason I do this show. I'm trying to find, first of all, to inform you about things you're not told about because the news is non-existent in America. Well, on TV, I should say. You can find it. Again, go to Midas Touch on YouTube. There are other sources as well. And Ground News is a good place to get news online. But if you're watching CNN or ABC or NBC and even MSNBC, certainly Fox News, you're not getting news. You're not getting news. And that's part of what I want to talk about in getting together with family over the 4th of July that I experienced this week. It was very, very interesting to see where people are at, where different people are at, and the different places that they're at. It was very valuable and interesting to me. And that's how I'm learning that everybody's got to be free to have their own place. Like a lot of people that I know personally, I'll send this podcast to in a text, and I always tell them, no obligation to listen, no obligation to tell me you listened, no obligation to compliment if you think it's good even. I mean, it's just here if you want it. And if you want me to stop sending it every week, tell me to stop sending it every week. So far, everybody seems to like it to get sent to them every week. We are all in this together, and I'm just hoping that I can find some things that help you out. Like I say, usually at the end of the show, you help me out by giving me a reason to do this show, because I learn a lot in doing this show. Because I'm looking into things that you can't find in the news, and those are things I want to spread. We're going to go through some of that stuff. But we all have to be careful and feel just fine about being wherever we're at. If these are things you don't want to talk about and don't want to hear about, that's fine. Absolutely fine. If you've listened to the show before, you know that we talk about the election integrity of the 2024 election here on the show, because there are a lot of studies going on, and there's a lot of information and evidence about the fact that Donald Trump did not win this election. There are people, and there were a couple at the weekend that I had with the family who don't want to hear that. They're afraid to hear that. And I totally understand. It's scary. The changes that we're going through now can be perceived as scary. We are in scary times. For a lot of people, it's very scary. A lot of people are afraid of being kidnapped if they show up at work. Kidnapped by our government. What does that sound like? Jesus, So, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And like I said, this morning, I was like, I just don't think I can do the show today, man. I feel such a mixture of feelings about these girls getting swept away in a flood. Did they have to get swept away? Could that have been prevented? Seems like there's evidence that it could have. It could have. For instance, Kyle Kolinsky, who, by the way, is a good source of information online. He's got a show called Secular Talk. He said, with the flooding in Texas and all of those precious little girls dying, it's important to remember this was 100% preventable, is what he says. Elon and Trump slashed the National Weather Service and massively reduced the number of weather balloons in the country, destroying our ability to accurately forecast severe weather events. I, meaning him, Kyle, I've personally experienced forecasts being way off multiple times already. They have blood on their hands, and they should be arrested for the deaths of those little girls. There is a large portion of people in this country who feel exactly the way Kyle does. I think I'm one of them. Trump killed my friend a couple of weeks ago, and now he's killed 27 young girls. He and Elon and their minions. That's how I feel. You can feel how you feel. And if you feel like I just described, you don't need to feel guilty or bad. More and more people are talking about their desire to have to expire. The desire to expire when they're thinking about Donald Trump's mortality. I'll put it that way so that I don't get kicked off of YouTube when we put this up. But, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. And I don't think it's your fault. If you feel that way, I don't think it's your fault. I think it's Trump's fault. When we say what Trump did, a lot of Republicans say, you can't say that about him. I'm just pointing out what he did. I'm just pointing out a true fact about him. What's wrong with that? Now, we're going to maybe take an early break. Like I said, I didn't know if I was even going to do the show. Of course, I knew I was going to do it, but I just didn't want to. I was like, I can't. I don't know how to, I guess, is how I felt. I don't know how to talk about this in a positive way, in a hopeful way. I was feeling like I may have lost my hope. And if that's how you're feeling, it's okay. But I think together we can maintain our hope. That's what I hope we can do here together while you're listening to the show this week. When we come back, I will go through a few actual news items that you probably have not heard about, and gauging this off of also talking to some relatives over this holiday weekend and hearing what they have and have not heard about. And it's sad. It's really sad because people just are not, you really have to dig to get to any kind of news. And that's what I'm trying to do here so that you don't have to, that cliche. So let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll go through some of that stuff, okay? You're listening to A Satellite View. We'll be right back. And we're back on a satellite view. If you like the music you hear here, go to toddmikkelson.com, push the music button, and you can hear this and a lot of other music I've written over the years. Also go to satelliteviewpodcast.com. That's our website. You can sign up to be on our emailer. Go to my Instagram, at Todd Mikkelson. I'm also on Blue Sky, and I'm still on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. What else can you do? I don't know. There's a lot of fun old concerts that have been refurbished, video and audio. Go find that. That's been getting me through this. I found a great concert by my favorite band, Talk Talk, a couple weeks ago. I can't believe how therapeutic that was for me. So that's other things you can do. I guess my point is, make sure that you take care of yourself and make sure that you're still enjoying your life. Don't let this fucking twerp take away your joy. We're not going to give him that kind of power. We're not going to give him our fear, like AOC says.
I'm not going to give them my fear.
This just in, Republican Representative Derek Van Orden of Wisconsin wrote a letter urging his state's Democratic governor to take steps to protect rural hospitals from the fallout of Republicans' widely reviled budget bill, which Van Orden voted for. Talk about twerps. Van Orden's urgent letter, which was dated Wednesday ahead of the bill's Thursday passage, added to the list of Republicans who have effectively acknowledged the legitimacy of widespread fears that Republicans' Trump-backed budget will harm some of the most vulnerable Americans, even as many Republicans have suggested it won't. So they're writing letters saying, yes, I am a liar. Can you please save the people from me? I am the representative of the people, but you are the governor. Can you please save my constituents from me? Van Orden's letter essentially called on Governor Tony Evers to hurry up and sign the state budget in order to protect rural hospitals from some of the steep Medicaid cuts that are likely to be triggered by congressional Republicans' mega bill. How absolutely stupid and pathetic can this possibly get? Now, before the break, we talked about how deadly it has gotten. What more do we need to change the rules in this country? You've heard me say before, if you listen to the show, the founding fathers, if they were here right now, would think we were a bunch of idiots for never changing the Constitution. You haven't kept it up to date? Can women vote yet? Well, they can right now, but they might lose that right pretty soon. They've already lost their right to health care. What? Why? So women in America can't, they're just going to die? Yeah. Uh-huh. Why? Anyway, I don't know. I try and make it into a comedy routine. It's hard. Here's something else I do have a friend, my friend Doug, who said he's worried that the Medicare cuts, nobody's going to feel them until after the midterms. I think people are up on it. I mean, we've got Republicans writing letters to governors saying, please save my people from me. We've got billionaires saying they're going to pitch in to make sure hospitals don't close. So it's up to us. There are some billionaires who aren't complete pieces of dung, like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk is. And they're talking about, no, we're not going to let these rural hospitals, we're going to do all we can to make sure people still get services. Now, they're not allowed to well, I guess they could maybe fund Planned Parenthood, but how many billions do you have? Even if you're a billionaire, you're not as rich as the federal government. And taking away funding from Planned Parenthood means a lot of women are going to lose their ability to be screened for cancer, their regular health care. Okay, anyway, Another thing you might not have heard about, Ukraine did another huge strike about 800 miles into Russia. Did you hear about that? No, it wasn't on the news, was it? Did you hear the dollar is tanking worse since 1973 right now? Starting a couple weeks ago, and now it's on a trajectory. It's no longer being trusted. Other countries are no longer putting their money into America because the dollar is not as stable. It's not the stable place to put your money anymore. In the meantime, absolute abysmal corporate news just lets Trump keep saying, there's $15 trillion have been invested in the last 10 minutes, as far as I think a lot of people are saying. They don't ask him any follow-up questions. Of course, he wouldn't know how to answer that. He doesn't know what he's talking about. The mainstream media is not talking about his cognitive abilities. Huh? Jake Tapper, how's your show doing? How's your book selling? What else? Oh, yeah, talking about corporate media. They're saying terms like inflation is unexpectedly up. Really? Unexpectedly? It would have been unexpectedly if Elon Musk had not changed the vote count and we had Kamala Harris as president right now. Then it would be unexpectedly because everything would have been going really great with our economy. No, it became totally expected the moment Elon Musk stole those votes and Donald Trump was going to become president. Job numbers. Private sector jobs were supposed to be up by 100,000. Instead, they're down, negative. The private sector lost 33,000 jobs in June. And of course, Trump is lying about that. And what does the corporate media do? They say, 147,000. 47, really? Oh, the 47th president. Trump said 147,000. Whereas the people who actually do this, Trump is doing something with people being hired into government jobs. At the same time, firing thousands of people from government jobs. So no, we didn't gain 147,000 jobs in June. The private sector lost 33,000 jobs in June. Again, I leave it up to you if you want to listen to real numbers, and you leave it up to you if you want to trust me with reporting that, or if you want to stay with corporate media. I mean, part of the deal, we got to deal with Vietnam. Vietnam, who we don't do hardly any trade with, by the way. Part of the deal is there's going to be a Trump golf course built in Vietnam. Did you hear Lester Holt tell you that? I think he's no longer he's the funnest one to make fun of, though. Did you hear about Edward Kelly? He was just sentenced to life in prison for conspiracy to murder federal employees. That's that's one of three things he was convicted of. Conspiracy to murder federal employees. It included FBI agents and sheriffs and policemen. He was sentenced to life in prison. You know, another interesting thing about Edward Kelly? He was previously convicted for all the shit he did on January 6th at the Capitol. But then Trump pardoned him and let him out of prison. And then he was going to kill multiple federal employees. But he got caught and now he's thrown back in prison for life. Who's letting the criminals into the streets? Did you hear that story on corporate media? Have you heard that story? And also, another thing we were talking about with the family, everybody, when I was talking about some medical things, everybody said, yeah, but the funding's going to be all taken away from that. Is it? What about these billionaires and philanthropists who are working on this stuff? And what about all the studies being done in other countries? And are the tariffs on? Are the tariffs off? I'm a small business owner. We have a lot of the parts that I've designed, almost all the parts I've designed are made out of aluminum. And I talked to my manufacturer, another small business a couple towns over, who does our machining and welding of the parts that I've designed. I asked him, Have you heard anything about aluminum prices? And he said, yeah, I'm expecting it to get pretty bad starting next week. That was 6 weeks ago. So far, nothing has changed. How do you start a tariff? Who starts the tariff? Does it start at the border? Usually, when you have a tariff set between you and another country, it takes months, if not a couple of years, to get it arranged. Now Trump's saying, I'm just going to write a letter telling everybody how much the tariff is on them. Okay, yeah. Well, that'll just magically make everything change. The brain power has left the Republican Party. They don't know how to implement what they're saying they're doing. I'm not saying that nothing is true. ICE is terrorizing. They are domestic terrorists kidnapping people off the streets and making them disappear. That is happening. People are dying in storms. People are getting murdered because of the hate that Trump just keeps pumping up. Those things are happening. Also, what's happening is a lot of really good people have been putting a lot of studies, a lot of people who know what they're doing, putting a lot of studies into what happened on November 5th, 2024. You've heard me talk about it on this show. Go back a couple shows and I do more detail about it. But now it's in the courts in Rockland County. None of the relatives I saw this weekend heard anything about Rockland County. The Supreme Court of the state of New York thinks that there is ample evidence to do more discovery on a court case. And they're saying, go through discovery, and we're going to bring this to trial in September. I think that's too slow, but when it's looked back upon in history, it's going to be fast. A few months to do this kind of intensive studying. And by the way, why didn't Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, say it right away? Why didn't they demand a recount? Okay, after what Trump was doing in 2020, America's going to just accept Kamala Harris coming out on the 6th of November saying, Trump cheated and he stole the election. I can tell you how. Would people have accepted it? Well, now there's been a lot of evidence gathered in most of the, if not all of the 7 swing states. And now there are 12 other states who are starting to get ramped up to do hand counts, recounts now. And it's because these states are seeing the evidence I'm talking about. And you can find this evidence online. The people who've done the studies have presented it very clearly. You can find it at electiontruthalliance.org. It's an alliance because it's a few different entities, a few different groups have decided, hey, let's work on this together. It's a lot of people, and a lot, again, of billionaires are funding it. They know what happened, and they want us to know what happened. But we've got to fight through corporate media because they're not going to report on it. This is not a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy. Once it's proven, it's no longer a theory. There is plenty of evidence out there. Now we got to figure out a way to convince people about this, to make people see this evidence. We're getting no help from corporate media. So humanity needs to step up, and it is. It is stepping up. Now, Heidi's almost entire family came into town. She's got a lot of siblings that live out of town, and her dad still lives on the farm he was born on, by the way, and he's 98 years old. And he was looking great. He's doing really well. It was pretty incredible to see him. He was doing better than the last couple times I've seen him. But it was really interesting to talk to everybody. First of all, I was a little afraid about politics coming up because I know people aren't in the same place I am, especially talking about what I just talked about Elon Musk, putting satellites in low Earth's orbit in an array around the country 2 weeks before Election Day, and then texting people saying they won't see what's coming This isn't even a piece on the chessboard, I think is what he said. That's all true stuff, but nobody's heard it. And indeed, it seems to actually kind of make some people nervous and scare people. I don't know if they're afraid of hearing it. I don't know if they're afraid of thinking that I'm crazy. All of a sudden I'm sounding like Alex Jones or something. Although Alex Jones isn't talking about this, but I'm not sure what they're afraid of. Maybe they're just afraid that, no, that's not how I understand America to be. And it's scary for them to believe that it's possible that has happened. I understand it. And I want everybody to feel comfortable in their zone. And that's what we all have to do. If you hear or see something that doesn't resonate with you, you don't have to take it in. You don't have to believe it. Because the only real entity that you need to trust is inside you, yourself. You've got all the power inside you. How do you feel? Do you think Trump won this election? Do you think he ran a campaign that won him the election? Do you think Kamala ran a crappy campaign? Do you think Kamala was unable to get people on her side when she had 250,000 people show up at her rally a couple days before the election in Washington, D.C., and Trump couldn't keep... It looked like he had a few hundred people, and they were starting to leave while he was talking? You've seen pictures of his ear. What do you think happened? I have no idea what happened. But I know we were told he was shot in the ear with a high-powered rifle round, and yet there's no damage to his ear. And we all have to grapple with how we feel about that. What do you feel about that inside you? That's the only person you need to really gauge whether or not you trust. How do you feel? That's what we all have to do. I was very surprised that a couple of of Heidi's siblings said, "Hey, I listened to your podcast." One of her brothers said, "I listen to your podcast every week now." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know you knew about it." Because frankly, I didn't really tell them about it because I don't know how they accept it. And I don't know what they're going to think of me. I grapple with this all the time. Parts of me I'm afraid to reveal to people that say I know when I met when I ran for office. I'm afraid to reveal parts of me to them. And then, because I used to be in bands and stuff. I was never like a drug addict or anything, but I mean, it's like, I don't know. I was in an 80s band in the early aughts, and there's a bunch of photos of me with a lot of eye makeup and looking like a flock of seagulls. I'm afraid to reveal that to the people I met when I was running for office, because I was trying to get them to support me as their state house representative. Do they want the flock of seagulls guy in there? Not the real flock of seagulls guy. Me, who's imitated, so I've grappled with this throughout my whole life, and I've compartmentalized my life in many ways. And I was afraid to tell Heidi's siblings about my podcast. I haven't told some of my own family about my podcast because I don't know how they're going to feel. And I don't want anyone to feel obligated to be in the same space or accept me. And that's not what I'm trying to do with this show. I'm not trying to get you to be like me. I'm just trying to give you more information that it's really hard to get elsewhere. I spend the whole week. I'm in a position with how my day goes at running my business where I can have stuff on in the background and I gather a lot of information throughout the week. And I bring it to you because I know it's hard and it takes a lot of time to get that. And I know I'm in a unique situation to be able to take the time to gather that information. And I'm trying to give you the benefit of that. But then I want you to take that and put it into your head and make you feel how you feel. I trust you. You don't have to trust me. I trust me, and I'm trusting you to trust yourself. That's what we're trying to do here. I think is kind of a bit of a revelation I had this weekend in talking to some of these people. And And there was one person who said, hey, would you send me the podcast? There were a few who then kind of overheard I had a podcast who didn't say a word about it. Totally fine. Totally get it. Absolutely. But I hope this helps you in talking to other people. If you feel comfortable, help me spread the word. Make sure you tell the story about stupid Representative Derek Von Orden from Wisconsin, who wrote the letter to his governor begging the governor to save his constituents from him. You know, news stories like that are undeniable. You can at least talk about those things. But hey, I hope people start talking about Rockland County. Nobody I saw this weekend had heard of Rockland County. That's a huge story. And it's not me. It's the New York Supreme Court is like, wow, this is explosive evidence. Not rumors, evidence. We need to put more study into this evidence and take it to court. That's what's going on. So, again, monitor yourself. You have all the power inside yourself. Trust that. Go with how you feel about what's going on with all of this stuff, about how the world is right now. Interact with other people. Don't interact with other people. It's all up to you. There's no right and wrong way. But we are all in this together. And I thank you so much for listening to this or watching this video, because it really does help me to do this show. And I feel as though I'm really with you. I feel like we have a little community, and that helps me a lot. So you're helping me. I hope I'm helping you. Thank you so much for listening. Let's take care of ourselves, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else. And let's stick together to help each other get through this. And I will speak at you next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.